So you like dinosaurs. But just like everyone else, every time you see a theropod you go, "Oh, a T-Rex," and all of your dino knowledge comes from Jurassic Park. But you don't want to suck anymore. You want to go from dino lover to complete amateur paleontologist, or even expert.
Wow.
Well, you clicked on the right video, because by the end, you'll have the general knowledge on dinosaurs and actually be able to tell from facts and myths. Here we go. First, let's start from the start. You see, the Earth's chronology has been separated into geological eras, and before you ask, no, not like Taylor Swift. These eras are again separated into periods. Going back to our dinos, they lived in the Mesozoic era, which is separated into 3 periods. So we have to go back to around 220 million years ago, to the Triassic period. You find yourself in a dense forest. Wait, no, actually, you're in a really dry place, with not many nice trees, but conifers and ferns and other stuff like that. It looks more like a desert. It's really hot and dry. Oh, and by the way, Earth back then was just a massive continent, or supercontinent called the Pangaea. Yeah, keep this in mind. And on the other side, just a huge ocean. Hope you don't have thalassophobia. Back on land, the largest predators weren't our precious dinosaurs yet. There were other non-dinosaurian archosaurs, like Pastosuchus, a 4-meter-long carnivorous predator. And guess what? There were actually mammals like us back then, but quite small ones, like Cynogenetus. But what about dinosaurs? The first of them were small, bipedal, and most of them were either carnivores or omnivores. For example, we have the Eoraptor. Yes, in the same family as the famous Velociraptor, but more about them later. Or we also got one of my favorites, the Herrerasaurus, one of the earliest large theropods. It was actually a bit big, around 6 meters long. These dinosaurs' environment wasn't really paradise though. Like I said, it was more of a desert. But there was also a lot of volcanic activity, causing the landscape to change often. This climate and competition with other reptiles, as well as predation, shaped early dino revolution, since dinosaurs still represented a minority in the Triassic world. Then we change the time period and go into the most known period of the Mesozoic. I wonder why. But seriously though, you'll see now that most of the dinosaurs in the Jurassic Park franchise don't come from the Jurassic period, but we'll take a look at it soon. So for our timestamp, the Triassic ends around 201 million years ago, and Jurassic Park, period, starts right after. We could call this period the Age of Reptiles, or the Golden Age for dinosaurs, because they absolutely exploded. No, not like that, that's way later. I'm talking about diversity. This is the time that you could say dinosaurs ruled the Earth. Maybe that's why it's called Jurassic after all. Oh, also, we talked about the Pangaea before. Well, now it's separated into 2 parts, Laurasia up north and Gondwana in the south. This created new oceans, and it also completely changed the climate, making it wetter and warmer, changing the environment as well, with lush tropical forests, giant floodplains, swampy forests, fern prairies, and of course the ones you can't forget, conifer jungles. Because conifers were the literal king in forests. But there were still many ferns and cycads on the ground, with many other plants. But unfortunately, no flowers yet. Sorry about that. Coming back to our favorite shape of nuggets, dinosaurs started to get big now. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant huge. Yep, that means sauropods started to appear, or in plain boring English, the long-necked enormous herbivores. The biggest animals to have walked the earth. Like Apatosaurus, up to 23 meters long, or the Diplodocus, up to 42 meters long. And we can't forget the goat, the Brachiosaurus, standing at around 22 meters long, 12 meters tall, and around 28 tons, which is about as heavy as 4 African elephants. These dinosaurs were literally dominating the landscape. We also got at this time Stegosaurs. That's right, the dinosaurs with those huge plates on their back. Like the Kentrosaurus, or the most known being the Stegosaurus, with its plates being longer than 30 centimeters. It also had 4 long spikes at the end of its tail, reaching lengths to 60 to 90 centimeters. These spikes were called tagomizers, and they were used as defense. Defense against who, you might ask? Well, herbivores weren't the only ones on the stage. We obviously had theropods like the Allosaurus. It was around 12 meters long and was one of the top predators at the time. It was not alone in the predator spot. We also have the Ceratosaurus, a bit smaller, being about 7 meters long with a little horn on its head. These two were the absolute meat eaters at their time. We had a nice time with our dinos friends, but keep in mind that they weren't alone. The skies were filled with flying reptiles, pterosaurs. And no, they were not dinosaurs, and I insist, never say they're dinosaurs, especially not in front of a dino nerd, cause they will cut you open like a Deinonychus. Alright, spoiler, you don't know what that is yet, sorry. Same goes for marine reptiles. Yep, they aren't dinosaurs either. But in the late Jurassic, dinosaurs started evolving in a different way, because they started having the ability to fly. That's right, in this period, we start to see avian dinosaurs appear, like the Archaeopteryx, a small dinosaur covered in feathers, being able to jump from tree to tree and hover in the air for a short period of time. In the midst of all these giants or smaller creatures, our own kind was still surviving in the shadows. I'm obviously referring to mammals. They were mostly tiny and nocturnal. Yeah, we mammals aren't quite on the scene yet, but like you already know, that'll change soon. Now let's switch to what you've been waiting for the entire time, where the dinosaurs are everywhere, thriving and evolving in the longest and last period of the Mesozoic era, the Cretaceous period. Starting at around 145 million years ago, this time around you can start to recognize our well-known planet as the Pangaea was fully broken up, and we can name all the continents. The climate at the time had changed once again, making it warmer and more humid, with sea levels being high. Of course, without a doubt, conifers, cycads and ferns were still common, but the ecosystems were changing as we finally got the appearance of flowers. That's right, flowers started appearing and spreading, reshaping the world of dinosaurs. With all of that bright news, there might be some hard-to-swallow pills for our fellow dinosaurs, like the intense geological activity, with lots of volcanic activity and the plate movement, meaning earthquakes, almost as if they were foreshadowing some kind of event. Now without waiting anymore, let's get to the absolute showstoppers, the Cretaceous dinosaurs. First we got the Hadrosaurs, also known as duck-billed dinosaurs. Why, one may ask? Simple, they had a duck-like beak. I know, it's mind-blowing. Anyhow, in this group, we found dinosaurs such as the Parasaurolophus, is the one with the big long crest thing on its head, standing at around 4.9 meters tall and 9 to 11 meters long. But the use of its long crest is still unknown. But we have some plausible theories, the most supported one being that it was mainly used for communication and visual display. Communication because it functioned like a resonating chamber, helping the parasaur produce low-frequency sound, and display because it just looked sick. Then we had other herbivores, like the ceratopsians. Yep, our good old Triceratops. I mean, who can hate this guy? Reaching lengths close to 9 meters and a mass of 12,000 kilograms. And we can't forget its legendary horns, close to a meter long, along with its massive head frill, used to defense against the big predators. There's also some theories that the Triceratops was a highly social animal, forming groups or herds. They even had a defense strategy in case of predator attacks. They form a circle with the biggest animals encircling the younger Triceratops in the middle. Another dinosaur in the ceratopsian group was the Styracosaurus, reaching lengths of around 5 meters. This dino didn't have its horns on its eye like the Triceratops, but on top of its frill, most likely used for attracting mates. Now let's move on to the literal tanks of the Mesozoic world, and I'm talking about the Ankylosaurs, also known as armored dinosaurs. The most known one, the Ankylosaurus obviously, was up to 8 meters long, going to the end of its tail, which ends with the huge club. Yeah, it's named like that, just like in golf. It weighed roughly 19.9 kilograms and could literally crush bones, making it a great weapon against predators. Not to mention its armored back, which could make the larger theropods lose their teeth trying to bite through. But who would want to bite through it anyway? Well, I bring to you the huge predators of the Cretaceous, starting with what y'all have been waiting for, the Tyrannosaurus rex, or the king of tyrant lizards. Might as well call it the king of dinosaurs. It was around 12 meters long and 4 meters tall, hunting with its heightened senses the herbivores we just talked about, making it probably the greatest apex predator on land to ever live. But even being the best hunter, he was on the lone because there were other tyrannosaurs living in the Cretaceous, like the Albertosaurus or the Tarbosaurus dominating the north. Down south, we got other types of carnivores, like the Abelisaurids, with the Carnotaurus. Its name literally means meat-eating bull because of its big head and tiny horns at the front. Next, we also had a special type of dino, kind of controversial actually. I'm of course talking about the one and only Spinosaurus. Reaching lengths up to 16 meters and height of 5.4 meters. But it's most famous for the huge dorsal spine on its back, which was probably used for display and attracting mates. This dinosaur was theoretically a semi-aquatic dinosaur. Yep, half land and half water, eating not other herbivores but mostly fish, so it lived close to swamps and rivers. There were also other dinosaurs in the Spinosaurid group, like the Baryonyx or the Cyclomimus, both having a similar snout to the Spino. But not all carnivores need to be big and bad hunters, so we also had relatively small but agile, fast and deadly predators, the dromaeosaurs, or you can call them raptors. Just to get things clear from the start, the ones in the movies are typically velociraptors, but in reality they are quite small, around 1.5 meters long and 0.5 meters tall at the hips. That doesn't mean dromaeosaurs couldn't get big. For example, we have the Deinonychus, 3.4 meters long and 0.87 meters tall. They were theoretically pack hunters, and they could take down animals way bigger than themselves by hunting together, especially bigger species, like the Utahraptor, the biggest raptor of them all. But I have a video on that specific subject, so subscribe to watch that one. Even though dinosaurs ruled on land, other creatures were thriving in other types of locations, like in the oceans, which were now pretty deadly because it was swarming with marine reptiles, which, just like pterosaurs, aren't dinosaurs, but still pretty sick, like the Mosasaurus for example, which could reach lengths up to 12 meters, swimming in oceans around the world. By the way, in the movie Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, for some reason, they made the Mosasaurus way bigger than it actually is. I mean, these animals are cool enough, you don't need to make them kaiju-like monsters. Anyhow, the Mosasaur fed on pretty much anything it could find, even other mosasaurs. Then we also had the Plesiosaurs, weird-looking marine reptile similar to legendary or mythical creatures like the Loch Ness Monster with its long neck. Hey, maybe that's what Nessie is, a plesiosaur. But hey, that's just a theory. It could reach lengths up to 13 meters for the bigger species. It fed on fish in the water using its mouth like some sort of fish trap and propelling itself with its paddle-like fins. The oceans were not the only place filled with giants. Meet the Quetzalcoatlus, the largest flying animal to ever live, with a wingspan of 11 meters, which is around the width of a tennis court. It also had a height of 5 meters with a gigantic head and beak. There were also smaller pterosaurs, like the Pteranodon, with a wingspan of 6.5 meters. These huge animals managed to stay in the air thanks to their wings, which are made of a membrane skin tissue, kinda like bats. We obviously can't forget the little mammals living at the time. They were much more diverse now. Some of them were carnivores, feeding on smaller dinosaurs, and others were insectivores. But things are about to change real soon. Unfortunately for us dinophiles, and fortunately for the entire human race, all dinosaurs went extinct at the end of the Cretaceous period around 66 million years ago. The most plausible explanation is the Chicxulub asteroid, an asteroid around 10 to 15 kilometers wide which struck in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The site of the impact, the Chicxulub crater, is about 180 kilometers wide. The immediate effects after the impact should have been massive shockwaves and tsunamis, global firestorms, and a lot of dust ejected into the atmosphere, blocking off sunlight for months or even years. This would have caused all plant life to die, followed by the death of herbivores and then carnivores. The asteroid might have not been the only thing to have caused a massive extinction, since there was also a lot of volcanic activity. Both of these combined led to the extinction of approximately 75% of all species on Earth, since it affected land, ocean, and air ecosystems, meaning that even pterosaurs and marine reptiles disappeared. However, after all these apocalyptic events, some managed to survive. That's right, mammals, some plants, and a bunch of other animals that are still present today survived the impact of the asteroid. Even dinosaurs. That's right, I might have lied when I said all dinosaurs went extinct, because the alien dinosaurs actually managed to survive, what you now know as birds. Yes, because birds aren't dinosaur descendants or anything, they are quite literally dinosaurs. You might not look at a pigeon the same way now. You see, Dinosaurs are mainly separated into two groups according to their bones. The first group, Saurischia or lizard-hip dinosaurs, had their pubis forward like modern lizards, but they later rotated backward just like we find in modern birds. In this group, we can find theropods and sauropods. Next, we have the Ornithischia, bird-hip dinosaurs. But despite the name, they weren't ancestral to birds somehow. I know it's a bit confusing. This group only had herbivore dinosaurs, like the armored dinosaurs, ornithopods, and ceratopsians. So the Cretaceous period came to its end and began the Paleogene period of the Cenozoic era. Us humans only started to appear 4 million years ago. Fun fact, the T-Rex actually lived in the time period closer to us than it was to the Stegosaurus. Mind blown. Coming to the present day, we learn about dinosaurs exclusively thanks to fossils found underground that paleontologists dig up and study, comparing with modern day animals to make assumptions on how the dinosaurs lived back then. Yeah, it seems like a long process, and there's a lot, and I mean a lot of stuff that we don't know about dinosaurs. They could have been totally different to what we think of them today, but for now, after this video, your dinosaur knowledge has grown like an Argentinosaurus, and you'll be ready to crush all those dinosaur ignorant people. If you enjoyed watching, please leave a like and subscribe, comment down your favorite dinosaur, and you obviously have to learn about the king of dinosaurs, so watch that video right here, and I'll see you there.